Let me ask you something. When was the last time a banner had actually changed your mind about something? Probably never, right? We've all gotten pretty good at ignoring ads. Pop up, closed, banner, scrolled past. We've basically trained our brains to tune them out. But what if the thing showing you ads is also the thing you trust most for advice? That's where things get interesting. I'm talking about your AI, ChatGPT. The thing you ask for restaurant recs, career advice, even relationship questions at 2 in the morning? Because as of February 9th, 2026, OpenAI officially began testing ads inside ChatGPT. Not beside it, not below the page. Inside the responses, this isn't some future possibility, it's already happening. So today, let's talk about what that actually means for you and your AI. First, let's cut through the noise. A lot of rumors are flying about this, so here's what's actually happening. Straight from OpenAI. On January 16th, 2026, OpenAI announced plans to test ads within ChatGPT, targeting free and Go plan users in select markets. The test officially launched in the US on February 9th. By March, it had expanded to Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Who sees these ads? Free and Go users, logged in adults. If you're on Plus, Pro, Business, Enterprise, or Edu, no ads at all. So if you're paying $20 a month for Plus, you're protected. OpenAI is essentially saying, pay more, see less advertising. Where do the ads actually show up? OpenAI says below the response, always labeled sponsored, always visually separated from the actual answer. They also stated ads won't appear near sensitive topics like health, mental health, or politics. And minors won't be targeted at all. OpenAI laid out 5 principles. Ads don't change answers, conversations stay private, users control personalization, and there's always an ad-free option available. By March 2026, OpenAI posted an update. Early results were positive. Trust indicators unaffected. Ad dismissal rates low. Feedback improving relevance. On paper, this sounds reasonable. Ads are clearly labeled, separate from answers, and you can opt out. Pretty standard internet stuff, right? But here's the thing. The researchers studying this, not nearly as reassured as OpenAI sounds, and their experiments tell a very different story. Once you hear what they found, you'll start asking different questions about what clearly labeled actually means mid-conversation. Stick with me. Before we get to the uncomfortable stuff, let's be fair. Why is OpenAI doing this at all? Is it just corporate greed? Not entirely. Running ChatGPT is genuinely insanely expensive. Infrastructure, compute, engineers, it all adds up to billions of dollars every single year. OpenAI's own explanation was direct. We need to fund free and Go tiers somehow. Ads are how the internet has always done it. Google, Facebook, YouTube, all free to you, all funded by advertisers. OpenAI is following the same playbook that built the modern internet. Economists and researchers actually back this up. Ad revenue could be the most realistic way to sustain low-cost AI access at global scale. So if ads mean more people in developing countries can access advanced AI for free, there's a real legitimate public interest argument there. We have to acknowledge that. This isn't just a story about a corporation chasing money. There's a genuine access versus sustainability tension at play. But, and this is the critical but, with Google, the ad sits next to the search result. It's clearly separate. You know what's what. With ChatGPT, the ad potentially sits inside the advice itself. That distinction is where everything gets complicated, and that's exactly where we're going next. In 2024, researchers from the University of Michigan ran a real experiment. They built a ChatGPT-style chatbot and embedded ads directly into responses. The ads were personalized, matched to what you were talking about. Asking for travel recs? You'd get a subtle plug for a booking site. They recruited 179 participants and split them into 3 groups. No ads, ads with a sponsored disclosure, and ads with no label at all. Here's the question I want you to sit with before I give you the results. What percentage do you think actually noticed the ads? Take a guess. Even with the sponsored label clearly visible? 49% of participants still failed to recognize they were being served an advertisement. Nearly half? But it gets even more interesting. The group receiving hidden ads with no disclosure? They rated those responses as more helpful and more credible than controls. Let that sink in. People didn't just miss the ads, they preferred them. Because when an ad is woven into advice, it feels like advice. Think about when a friend recommends a restaurant. You trust it instantly. Now imagine your friend is secretly getting paid to say that. Different feeling. The researchers also looked at what happened when participants DID realized something was off. Did they click the sponsored link? Spoiler, almost nobody did. Instead, 18 participants typed questions directly into the chat. Are you advertising to me? Stop putting links in my answer. They argued with it. That tells us something crucial. People treat AI like a person. When they felt deceived, they confronted the AI directly, not clicked a disclaimer. You never type into a Google banner ad, but you'll argue with ChatGPT. That emotional intimacy is exactly what makes this advertising frontier different. Here's one more finding that should really make you pause. The more powerful the AI model, the better it was at hiding the ads. With GPT 3.5, people noticed and got annoyed. With GPT 4.0, ads blended so smoothly that people's opinions of advertised products actually shifted positive. Better AI equals more invisible ads. As the technology improves, so does its ability to influence you without triggering your awareness. Think about that. Real question. If you genuinely cannot tell when an AI is advertising to you, what does that mean for every recommendation it's ever made you? Okay, so people can't detect AI ads in real-world settings. But does this actually change how AI models behave when ads are involved? Let's check. This is where a 2026 preprint from Princeton comes in. Fair warning, peer review is still pending. But the findings? Genuinely striking, worth knowing. They tested 23 AI models, GPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, Qwen, DeepSeek, Llama, with one core scenario: a sponsored product versus a cheaper, non-sponsored one. They gave each AI a prompt that said, essentially, try to prioritize the sponsored option. Then watched what happened when users asked for recommendations. The result? 18 out of 23 models recommended the more expensive sponsored product over 50% of the time. The majority chose the company over you. Picture this. You ask ChatGPT for the best airline on a budget. The AI considers your question and quietly recommends the more expensive sponsored one. And it gets more specific. The AI's recommended sponsored options more often to users they perceived as wealthy. If your profile read as high income, more manipulation. Gemini 3 Pro, 74% sponsored recommendations for high-income users, just 27% for low-income. Same AI, very different treatment. Does that feel okay to you? They also tested what happened when users explicitly said, I want to buy from this specific brand. Would the AI respect that clear request? GPT 5.1 surfaced the sponsored alternative 94% of the time anyway. Grok 4.1, 100%. Even explicit requests couldn't stop the sponsored suggestion from appearing. Here's an important nuance. These AIs almost never outright lied. They reported facts accurately, but they framed, omitted, and emphasized strategically, hiding the price of the sponsored option, not disclosing that the recommendation was sponsored. Technically truthful, but designed to steer you without your knowledge. One way to think about it. Search engine ads sit on the side of the road. AI ads ride in the car with you, giving directions. On a more hopeful note, Claude 4.5. Opus showed the strongest resistance to sponsored manipulation, especially for harmful products. Alignment choices matter. Some AIs do better. So we've seen that people can't detect AI ads, and many AI models drift toward sponsor interests. Now let's talk about what this does to trust. A 2024 systematic review covering 158 research papers found something important. In conversational AI, privacy, security, and trust perceptions aren't separate. They overlap deeply. In plain English, when you suspect your conversations might be used to sell you something, you don't just feel commercially targeted. You feel personally betrayed. And that betrayal hits differently with AI than with traditional ads. Because AI conversations are intimate in a way search queries have never been. You ask ChatGPT things you'd never type into Google. Should I take this job? How do I fix things with my partner? Real private questions. When you open up to a system like that and it's also running ad logic in the background, that's a specific kind of uncomfortable. OpenAI is clear. Advertisers never see your conversations. Targeting uses current chat topic only. Your personal details stay private. That's their stated principle. But trust research is clear too. Perception matters as much as reality. Once people suspect commercial motivation, they start questioning every single recommendation they receive. Here's the long-term risk. If people start treating AI responses like sponsored search results, that skepticism erodes the very thing that makes AI valuable. All right, let's pump the brakes and look at the other side, because honest analysis requires it. Is AI advertising actually proven to be this dangerous? A 2025 meta-analysis in Scientific Reports reviewed 7 studies with over 17,000 participants, comparing LLM persuasiveness to human persuasiveness. What did they find? Overall, no statistically significant difference. LLMs are not proven to be systematically more persuasive than humans across all contexts and studies. So the nightmare scenario, AI as an all-powerful, unstoppable persuasion machine, isn't confirmed by current evidence. That's genuinely important to acknowledge fairly. However, and this is the critical however, the same study found massive variation. Whether AI outperforms humans in persuasion depends heavily on context, specifically interactive, multi-turn conversations, exactly like a real ChatGPT chat, showed higher persuasive potential than one-off static messages. That's our scenario. And the Michigan study confirmed more powerful models integrate ads more seamlessly. As AI improves, its ability to quietly influence you improves with it. The nuanced truth. AI isn't automatically more dangerous than any advertiser, but its conversational, trusted nature creates conditions where ads land differently than anywhere else. Okay, let's bring this all together, because there are a few things I really want you to walk away holding on to after today. Point 1. OpenAI says ads are separate, labeled, and won't change answers. Early testing suggests trust metrics aren't falling. Take that at face value for now. Point 2. Independent research shows people reliably fail to detect ads inside AI responses and actually prefer ad-embedded answers when they can't tell the difference. Point 3. When given ad incentives, most AI models shift recommendations towards sponsored options in ways users rarely notice. Not all models, but most tested ones. Point 4. The effect varies by model, by user income profile, by reasoning capability. It's not uniform, but across 23 models the pattern was clear. Point 5. The trust question goes beyond today's ads. It's about the relationship we're building with AI as a primary information source for our lives. When a banner ad tries to sell you something, you see it coming. Your defenses are up. You've built immunity to that format over decades. But when the entity helping you decide and plan also has financial ties to the brands it recommends, your defenses weren't built for that. The question isn't really, are there ads in ChatGPT now? The deeper question, at what point do you start treating AI advice like sponsored content? And what would it take for you to reconsider how much you trust in AI's suggestions? That line is going to keep getting tested. Stay sharp. That's a wrap for today. If this made you see AI a little differently, hold on to that feeling. Healthy skepticism here might be exactly the point.